November 3, 1988. In the middle of the night, a group of armed mercenaries descended on the tiny island nation of the Maldives. They moved quickly through the capital, seizing key government buildings with a single objective: to overthrow the state entirely. The primary target of this violent coup was the democratically elected leader, President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom. The situation on the ground deteriorated rapidly. Without immediate outside assistance, his government was on track to collapse by morning. With time running out, a desperate distress signal was transmitted across the Indian Ocean, landing directly in New Delhi. India faced a critical choice in a highly volatile scenario: watch from a safe distance as a neighboring government fell, or deploy forces immediately. This single decision set in motion a race against the clock, launching the first phase of Operation Cactus. Within hours of receiving the distress call, the Indian military mobilized. The government tapped an elite strike force for the rapid deployment, the Indian Army's 50th Independent Parachute Brigade. Soldiers were rushed onto IL-76 transport aircraft, preparing for a long, overnight flight across the ocean. But they were flying into a total blackout. Military planners had virtually no intelligence on exactly how many mercenaries were waiting for them, or how heavily they were armed. As dawn broke over the ocean, the heavy transport planes began their final descent toward the capital's only major landing strip. The paratroopers had one absolute, non-negotiable objective: secure Hulule Airport. Looking at this narrow strip of tarmac surrounded by water, the precision required to safely land large transport aircraft in a hostile environment was extreme. Securing this isolated runway was the absolute linchpin of the entire mission. If the paratroopers failed to hold it, no reinforcements could land, and the initial strike force would be completely cut off. Once on the ground, the soldiers moved rapidly into the capital, systematically pushing the mercenaries back and regaining control of strategic locations. Within hours, they secured their primary objective: locating and rescuing President Gayoom before the mercenaries could reach him. However, a group of surviving mercenaries managed to flee the island. They hijacked a merchant vessel and took hostages out to sea. The mission instantly pivoted from a ground rescue to an open ocean pursuit. The Indian Navy deployed heavy warships, cutting aggressively through the water. They began a high-speed chase across the Indian Ocean, tracking the exact coordinates of the fleeing merchant vessel. Using massive naval assets, the military successfully intercepted the vessel, capturing the remaining mercenaries before they could vanish into international waters. In under 48 hours, the military executed an overnight airlift, a ground rescue, and a maritime hostage recovery, demanding precise, real-time coordination between the Army, Air Force, and Navy. This massive deployment was entirely defensive. There was no attempt to occupy territory, only a focused effort to restore a legitimate government that had specifically requested help. Military analysts globally took notice. India had demonstrated an ability to project precise military force hundreds of kilometers across the sea, restoring the government and capturing hostiles in under 2 days. By securing the Maldives' borders within hours, New Delhi demonstrated it would actively maintain order in the surrounding waters. This rapid response established a new precedent for regional security, showing India was both willing and capable of protecting stability. Today, Operation Cactus remains relatively unknown compared to prolonged military campaigns. But that obscurity is a direct result of its success. By acting so quickly, the intervention prevented a conflict from escalating into a lengthy war. It serves as a reminder that history isn't solely decided by battles that drag for years. Sometimes a nation's future is secured in a single night of decisive action, before the rest of the world even realizes what is happening.